Warning, this video contains strong language and offensive content. If you like those things, cool. But if you're a bitch ass nigga and you don't like those things, you might not like this video. But for the ones that do, enjoy this video.
This per back with another video, and I just got done watching episode 5 of American Horror Story 1984, also known as season 9. And man, this shit just keeps getting better and better with each episode that passes. But before I get to this review, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're new, and also follow me on Twitter at perpminded420. With all that being said, let's get right into this. So we get a lot more backstory on Donna. You know, it goes back to 1980, and she catches her dad with another woman and thinks that he's cheating, but what he finds is way worse, that her father is a killer. He's been killing for some time now, and this really explains why she does what she does as a psychiatrist and whatnot, and why she's so sympathetic with killers. But now it's like it's starting to, you know, blow back on her as it goes back to the where we're at currently, and he's talking to the Night Stalker just about being evil and how, you know, what you've done here is evil and you've always been that way. And she starts having visions of her father, and her father's telling her, like, you need to continue what I started. And I find that so fascinating. This is why this season is so fascinating to me. But then we go back to our group. You know, Xavier's like freaking out, saying, you know, we need to burn this whole thing to the ground. Gets knocked out by Margaret. They get back to the cabin, and, you know, Montana's got her own motives, and she wants to pretty much kill Brooke, but Brooke doesn't know this. So Chet and Margaret go out into the boat because Margaret tells everybody that, you know, there's more people outside of this camp, you know, on the other side of this camp. Brooke starts to see Ray and ends up going outside before Montana is able to, you know, bash her brains in with the axe that she grabbed. So we'll get back to that shortly. So Brooke sees Ray and has no idea that he's pretty much dead and he's a ghost. And Ray doesn't even know that he's dead and a ghost. So they decide to, you know, team up and just figure this all out. Meanwhile, Chet and Margaret are on the boat, and they have this really interesting conversation. And Margaret starts talking about, oh, you need to make right with your maker. And Chet's like, what the fuck you talking about? And then Margaret kills Chet. Margaret ends up killing Chet, throwing his body into the river. Then we get a scene with Brooke and Ray. They're running away from Mr. Jangles, or what they think is Mr. Jangles. And they just have this nice little bonding moment, you know. She opens up to her, he opens up to him, and it was really dope. And you see that, you know, Ray really means well, and it kind of makes up for what he's kind of done from what we saw in his backstory. But then they end up fucking, and I don't think Brooke knows that Ray is a ghost, but it's pretty hilarious. Going back to the cabin, Xavier's kind of losing his mind. While he's losing his mind, he does this little Joker thing, which I think, I wonder if that's paying homage to the Joker in some way. I don't know, maybe not, probably is a reach. Donna pops in and explains everything, that this is my fault that Mr. Jangles escaped. Pisses off Xavier. Xavier starts chasing her out of the cabin with an axe. Montana stays back to wait for Brooke. Speaking of Brooke, we go back to Brooke and Ray, and Brooke is explaining to Ray, this is my first time. So she's no longer a virgin, but, you know, sex can make a person thirsty. So she goes to the kitchen, and she finds Ray's head in in the refrigerator, and this freaks her out, and she starts to run off back to the cabin, talking to Montana. Montana's just like tired of her talking, so she knocks her out. And now it's 20 minutes till sunrise, and Brooke starts to talk to Montana starts to talk to Brooke about, her hatred of her and why her brother's death is her fault. And then they start going back and forth, just beating the shit out of each other. Brooke tries to get away, but she ends up having to fight Montana for a good 20 minutes throughout this episode. They don't show the whole thing, but going back to Donna, she's running away from Xavier because Xavier's trying to put an axe through her head or something, just kill her. And Mr. Jangles is there too, and he tells her you should have never brought me here. And Donna realizes that she made a mistake, so she pleads with Mr. Jangles to kill her, but Mr. Jangles replies no, you gotta live with what you did. And I really like that. That was really touching. Then we get a face-off with Mr. Jangles and Margaret, and he's about to kill Margaret right here until Xavier comes to the rescue and puts a whole shit ton of arrows into Mr. Jangles, and goes to check on Margaret to see she's okay. She's playing possum, ends up putting a whole knife through Xavier. Now Xavier's dead. Then we get a little scene of the Night Stalker talking to Mr. Jangles, asking him, do you accept Satan as your master? Now it's morning time. The kids that are supposed to come to the camp are arriving, and Brooke and Montana's epic showdown comes to a close with, Brooke just snapping on Montana and stabbing the shit out of her. The kids see this, cops come, and now it looks like Brooke has killed all these different people, and Margaret is getting away with murder once again. Ray tries to dip, but yet he ends up right back at the camp, realizing he's dead. Same thing with Montana, as she kills this cop, and she's very embracive of just dying, and she even makes mention that we could become gods here. I don't know what that is going to mean for the rest of this season, but it ends off with Mr. Jangles and the Night Stalker driving to Los Angeles. So I'm guessing this stuff doesn't affect them, since he must have made a deal with the devil pretty much, so they can go anywhere. And I really like this episode. Everything to do with Donna was cool. Her little backstory and what made her tick and why she does what she does. Everything with Brooke and Montana, I loved it. It's going to be interesting because now the only people that are alive are Brooke, Margaret, and Donna. So what do they have planned for the rest of this season? Because we still got a good half a season left. Are they going to show Brooke in an insane asylum for the rest of the season? Who knows, man? I really enjoyed this episode. What do you guys think about it in the comments below? Let me know your thoughts and feels. And make sure you hit that like button. And I'll check y'all out next week. Peace.